Hello. Oh no, wait a sec. Claire, I'm not hearing anything. Let me. Well, it might be on mine. Can you hear me? Hmm. I'm not hearing.
Hello, hello. I know I can now be heard.
Okay. I can
Heard
hear you. Can you hear
Elliott.
me?
Yes, yes. We're
Okay.
now live and audible to each other, and we have 4 live viewers.
Oh, fantastic.
Hello, Mark Smith. So, what did you think of that Catholic Muslim exchange with Khalid and E. Michael Jones? We were both, oh no, and Elliott's gone again. Oh, I don't know what's happening. Okay, I'm going to close a whole bunch of windows because that might help. Right, close them. And now I can only hope for Elliott's return. So while I wait for Elliott to return, I will tell you about E. Michael Jones talking to Khalid.
Hello.
Hello. Are we
StreamYard
audible?
keeps. Yeah, I can hear you, but StreamYard just keeps kicking me out, and
Mm-hmm.
then they ask me to log in, and then they send me a code, and you know, it's
Yeah.
also brutal.
Well, you're here now. It sounds like you're walking.
I am. I am. I've been inside all morning, and we've got rain coming in, so I'm trying to sneak in a little walk before the rain comes in. I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
sure I'm going to get rained on. Pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be done nonetheless.
Yes. Well, it's good to walk and talk.
Yes. Now, can you hear all the trees rustling in the background? Is it too distracting?
Yes. Yes. So I'm going to let you do all the talking.
Say it again?
I'm going to let you do all the talking because I'm afraid that, oh, he's gone again. That's what I thought would happen if we tried to do this. Um, well, I'm indoors, but obviously Elliot is outdoors and he keeps losing connection. I will just explain again. that Elliott and I were posting in the comments when E. Michael Jones was on Khalid Safir's channel. But since Elliott feels he can wait no longer before going for a walk before it starts raining, I think we'll have to keep putting up with these interruptions. But I see there are now 5 people. If you post comments, I can keep talking in a more entertaining way. I'll try to summarize what I think, what I can remember of what was being said. Obviously, the making of a Catholic-Muslim alliance is very important to Khalid and E. Michael Jones, because so Khalid did ask, what about the Protestants? And E. Michael Jones said, well, I don't think they're going to be around for much longer. And it's better for Muslims and Catholics to come to some arrangement to deal with their terrible government and the horrors of Zionism. And Khalid managed to get E. Michael Jones to commit to appearing on his channel once a month.
Are you there?
Yes.
Did you hear anything I just said for the last minute and a half?
No, because you dropped out, and I had to talk to fill in the otherwise dead air. So I summarised what I thought happened. Between Khalid and E. Michael Jones.
Okay.
The Catholic-Muslim alliance, and how E. Michael Jones doesn't think Protestants are going to be around for much longer.
Yeah, they're both deluded. The only thing they have in common is that they hate Jews. They have nothing else in common. Would you agree?
Well, I mean, Khalid does say the audio is terrible. I don't think we can carry on like this.
Okay, all right.
Then you were suddenly very clear. So maybe just say whatever you want to say before you're kicked out again.
Okay. The only thing that they have in common is that they hate Jews. Otherwise, they're diametrically opposed to one another. And it was the idea that those two are going to form any form of alliance is so laughable and so retarded that I can't believe they were even discussing anything. It was a celebration of mental retardation.
Why do you think it's retarded for Catholics and Muslims to form an alliance?
Because they're intrinsically inimical towards one another. They're from cultures that are totally different, right? They don't support polygamy. Islam supports polygamy. They don't support child sex. Islam supports child sex. Catholicism does not. There's just no point. There's nothing. They have nothing in common. They are.
Well, I don't think it's quite true about child sex. You're getting blowy again.
Okay.
And inaudible.
Okay. Well.
You're obviously doing something when you suddenly become clear.
I'm in a little forest, a little grove, and the wind keeps picking up. Then if I duck behind a tree where there's no wind, like I'm doing now, you should be able to hear me, right?
Right. Okay,
so I'll stay here. I'll forego my exercise and get fat.
Well, you can walk around the tree, I suppose.
It look like a retard, like Khalid. That's not funny, Claire. Don't laugh.
Okay.
Oh,
please
God.
Please take a picture of the tree that you're hiding behind when you're free. I've got hiccups now.
Well, I'll have to risk being disconnected to do that. I will do it though.
You can do it later, or well, I don't know. I just thought it'd be funny. So you're saying, oh no, he's gone again. Okay, I can carry on talking, I suppose. I don't see anything fundamentally impractical about Muslims and Catholics saying, we're united now, Jews, so you better mind how you go. And oh, I see the picture. That could be the thumbnail. It's quite a pretty tree. Yeah, it's a lovely picture, and I hope Elliott will come back again. Will he come back again? Back in 15 minutes, he says. So I guess in the meantime, I could tell you about other stuff while I wait for Elliott to finish his walkies, and I guess go get back home and be in a reasonable place to stream without walking round and round that pretty tree. So we still have 6 people now. I wonder if Elliott can hear me. It would be nice to know that he can. He's given me the thumbs up, which I think means he can hear me. So I see nothing fundamentally impractical about Muslims and Catholics forming an alliance and saying to Jews, watch it. But okay, nothing wrong in theory, but I mean, what are they going to do? What are they really going to do? I was posting in the comments that it is just as much a mistake to say Jews are acting in concert with each other in a single body with a single mind. And I was saying it's just as ridiculous to assume that the Ummah are doing what they're doing, as a single body with a single mind, as it is ridiculous to think Americans are doing what they're doing as a single body with a single mind, because knowing America and Americans as I do, I know they fundamentally disagree. So, it's just, I guess, fundamentally absurd to blame some average Joe in America for US foreign policy, because, okay, basically he doesn't understand it. And if he votes, it would be about, I guess these days it would be, immigration. Yeah. That actually the average Joe in America has woken up, because Trump, since before 2016, has been promising Americans that he would end the endless wars and he would do something about immigration, and that has got the attention of ordinary Americans, and they supported him, and he may even have won the previous election and had it stolen from him, and I suppose it vindicates him that he won the election last year. But now it seems that he's going back on his word, and he is accelerating the West towards war with China and Russia. So what is it with America and Americans? We know that America is an empire, and empires are acquired and maintained by war. That is the nature of empires. And in the case of the British Empire, obviously this means sending British soldiers to exotic places in continents far, far away from Europe to fight wars whose geopolitical significance they don't understand. So I do think it's quite fair to blame British soldiers. I guess, you think, well, every country should have an army, and some people, well, you want somebody to join the army, don't you? When you have armed forces, you want them to join, the Navy if you have one, and the Air Force, and you need people, and you can't really blame these people for foreign policy. They are basically the cannon fodder for the consequences of imperialism. So who are we to blame? The ordinary American who mostly doesn't even have a passport and would never think to go to any of the countries that his government bombs. But then they do go on about their freedom and their democracy. So ultimately, they are responsible in a way for their government. It is like, well, your government is bothering us. I mean, it's sort of like, you're a parent or a dog owner, and your dog is annoying other people, and your child is being annoying, and you being responsible for the child or the dog have to do something to curb its behavior. So in America, the idea is that if you don't like the government, you vote for the other party. And there's only two, so it should be quite easy. But actually, what has happened in America is that the political classes have formed a corrupt cartel, and what cartels do is that they sort of fix a price and kind of say, well, we don't want to, behave like a monopoly and, have exactly the same price for our product. So this year you get to have the higher price, and next year the situation is reversed, and we will we will also keep out any competitor able to supply the same product for a lower price. So this is how cartels operate, and obviously in the UK, this is what has happened to UKIP. I mean, it took UKIP over 30 years or around that sort of time to actually be sufficiently significant as a political force to force David Cameron into promising a referendum on the EU. And obviously the EU referendum was really about immigration. And they voted, and those who voted to leave won, but there's still immigration. So I guess it's not allowed. So you may well understand that the average Westerner is a little jaded by the democracy that he is supposed to support, and wonders what he can do to remedy the situation. They don't like the immigration, they don't like the wars. So what can they do? They've voted, they've made their feelings perfectly clear, but still their political classes ignore their wishes and call them names for objecting to immigration and objecting to the endless wars that NATO countries are supposed to support. So what are Westerners as a group supposed to do? Since it would appear that democratic ways of making our feelings known has not worked. Obviously, the answer is to up the ante and somehow get the attention of the ruling classes and say to them, well, we're not happy. We're not happy with the way that you're running the country. We don't like the way things are going. We'd like to ask you a few questions and receive proper answers. This must surely be the next step. And nobody seems to agree. They keep wanting to vote for the government they want, and I'm saying it's not going to do any good. You can vote away. You can even get the party that made you this promise into office, and they still won't do it. So what can you do? You would need to give them a talking to. You would, apart from complaining, you have to offer them a solution to their problems. I mean, obviously they have their problems of managing the whole thing, and they have their issues about acknowledging mistakes. And it's not just them. I mean, I talk to ordinary people, not very educated people, full of hatred and wanting to blame the Jews, and they're not being very honest either in whom they choose to blame. I mean, Jews are useful if you want a scapegoat and, you want to outsource all your mistakes as Gentiles governed by under liberal democracy. You can blame them. So if you listen to Khalid and Khaled's conversation with E. Michael Jones, I don't think they can help it. I mean, some people, genuinely do believe that, Jews can perform magic tricks and whatever. My position on Jews is that they're just as divided and stupid as Gentiles. And the only reason why Gentiles think they're so, wonderful and magic and superior and cunning is because of the status that is conferred on them by their scripture. Being God's chosen people, it is a very powerful identity, and it's almost ineradicable, because it's in the Bible, and even if you don't believe in God, you will somehow respect the scripture that two other religions are based on. Two powerful Gentile religions of Christianity and Islam are based on it. It's based on the Torah. So without the Torah, there would be no Christianity or Islam. So the logic and the chronology of these events means that I suppose the anti-Semites would say, well, it just means everything is Jewish, and they don't like it. But the reason why the Abrahamic God was culturally appropriated by Gentiles, if indeed that was what happened, it was simply because the idea of the most powerful being conceivable being your God, doing everything, knowing everything, being perfectly moral is obviously a very powerful idea, and obviously these Christians and these Muslims wanted to use the base idea of the Abrahamic moral system to suit themselves, and that's why everything's Jewish. I mean, look, if you steal somebody's clothes and you wear them, and people laugh at you because those clothes don't fit you, too big or too small, or too tight or too loose, is it the fault of the Jews? I don't think so. Well, if you go to the rabbis, they would say, well, they just took the Torah from us, and the only reason why the Talmud was called the oral Torah was, we just didn't want them to take the Talmud and copycat us and use it against us. But then, the whole there was just too much stuff, and then it had to be written down, and then over the centuries it got them into trouble because they said mean things about Jesus and his mum. And then when the Parisians had their the disputation of Paris at the Notre Dame, they sort of, did they win or did they lose the argument? But anyway, the upshot of that was that the Talmuds, a whole bunch of Talmuds were burnt because the Christians got angry with the Jews, apparently for saying rude stuff about Jesus. So while it is said that Saul of Tarsus, who later became Paul, the apostle, was really the Jew who, took a marketing decision on his way to Damascus to not bother selling Christianity to Jews anymore. He decided to sell them to Gentiles whose religion was basically idolatry. They didn't have, at the time, have any, warnings or prohibitions against idolatry. The warnings against idolatry pertained only to Jews. And the Catholic Church is really a remnant of the Roman Empire. We have to remember that the Latin title of the Pope is Pontifex. And before Rome Christianized, it was Pontifex Maximus. So they only changed one word in the transition from pagan to Christian. And some of us might notice how some of us might appreciate Catholic aesthetics, and it's basically putting on a good show. And I've heard Jews actually saying, "Wow, these Gentiles, they sure know how to put on a good show." And I thought, well, with the history of Romans putting on the games and all kinds of things, it's no surprise that the Roman Catholic Church is very good at putting on a show. And now we have Elliott back. Welcome back
Leslie,
again, Elliott.
can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I'm back home. My walk was cut short. The rain has started. So, I don't know. Well, both of these guys just strike me as deluded. They are somehow have talked themselves into a worldview that is so convoluted. It's so illogical. And yet they have no choice, but they have to persist in it. Emocle Jones, particularly, he's been in it forever. So,
well, he's built his entire career on it, really.
Yeah, what's it really got him? Did he actually publish any books, by the way?
Oh, loads. He's published loads. There was this big deal about David.
Yeah.
Talking to him on Luke's channel some years ago, right? And David was saying how much it cost and whatever. He does publish quite often. So there's a whole bunch of books.
So EMJ was on Luke's show?
Yes.
Oh, I forgot that, or I didn't see it. I don't remember it. But okay. So he's a Catholic supremacist. So the one thing I find so frustrating is all this interdenominational fighting between Christians. I think it's totally unnecessary and unproductive. But they love doing it.
Unnecessarily what? Sorry, I didn't catch what you said.
Well, it's so unnecessary and unproductive.
Well, I didn't help it because, Christianity is so vague. If you ever read the New Testament, it's like, what on earth does it mean? It's very extremist and it's very vague. And, if you follow it, you're bound to get into trouble.
Well, like I've been pushing on you for over a month now, if you learn the history of how the New Testament came together, you'll understand it better. You'll understand what it is you're reading and what you're not reading. And I've tried to explain this in the past, and I don't do a good job of it, but each of the Gospels, one followed the other, right? Mark came first, right? And then they kept...
I thought it was Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Or
I
don't know. Anyway, that's how it sort of says.
Mark was the first one. Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John is the order in which they were written. And he says he suspects that Mark was written in like 70 to 80 AD. So 80 years after, the crucifixion, purported crucifixion. So Carrier does not believe that there was an actual physical Jesus Christ. He believes he is a character construct. He's a literary construct.
Well, the Jews kind of agree too, because they say we have no record of this person.
Yeah.
And the closest person we could find was somebody associated with some guys, and they all had names that didn't correspond to the names of the apostles, apart from somebody called Mattei, which could be Matthew, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know it well enough to summarize it well, but
the point is the New Testament was not published or compiled until 20 to 70 years after the death of Jesus, or the alleged death of Jesus, if he ever lived.
Right, and they were they kept adjusting things and just inserting things in the wrong place. And if you're like a careful reader, you can just see there's a certain collage quality to how it's put together. And there's like all these subtle contradictions between the various Gospels. And then you have the epistles, which are somehow, what are they, letters and so forth? And
letters from Paul.
Yeah. And then there's some other set of letters called, I forgot what they're called. But the long and short of it is, what you had back then was these mystery cults, these Greek mystery cults, and they were proliferating all over the place, right? You could have a god for this and a god for that. And you could have, this particular tribe worship this god in this way and so forth. And it was like this. So there was sort of an arms race, and who could consolidate the most power around their particular mystery cult. And so Christianity. So the Jews, it was sort of they were trying to co-opt the Gentiles into belonging to their fold by creating a mystery cult that Gentiles could feel comfortable in. And it was a way of they were all competing for market share, the way social media sites compete for market share. Anyway, very complicated. But then you have, 2,000 years on, you have people solemnly declaring that they understand what God means and wants, based on their reading of these documents that were just put together ad hoc. It's so comical.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
that's why I've been beseeching you to watch this and understand this. And
I did. I did watch it, but I think Caesar's Messiah, which is a documentary in 90 minutes, is better. Because it's just Carrie just talking for 55 minutes. But Caesar's Messiah, has it's just better put together, and it makes it quite a coherent case for, you know, um, so basically he was saying the Romans had a Roman propaganda department. They had form for hiring poets like Virgil to write the Aeneid and the Georgics. And this is what they did. They just hire poets and turn it into literature. And then when Rome, when Constantine decided to Christianize Rome, he just asked that department to do it again. And therefore, Joseph Atwill, who wrote Caesar's Messiah, which was actually, trying to remember his name now, the Nazi, the laughing Nazi in Idaho. What's his name?
From this century? From
No, I mean, we used to go to his channel, right?
Oh,
The laughing
OV.
Nazi in Idaho.
OV.
That's right.
Yes. Okay.
So he talked about it, I remember.
Yes, and so, but it's an example. So I don't, I watched I watched that one movie, and I think they're off a little bit, but basically right. Whereas part of acquiring power was to develop what's called a hagiography, like this sort of imbue the political leader with divine characteristics, and as a way of consolidating and striking.
Yeah, but because in the Aeneid they made Caesar. Well, they said Caesar was descended from Venus, right? That was kind of what they did.
Yes.
And then when you think of the Romans, I mean, they began their existence as a people who hated kings and became a republic. And then they were a republic for centuries until Octavian, won the Roman Civil War, and then he became emperor, and then it was a monarchy. And so the Aeneid was basically a story about the new Rome, a new story for the Romans to absorb and think of it as ancient, and was based on Aeneas, who was a Trojan. During the sack of Troy, he had to help his father, put his father on his shoulders, and get onto a ship and come to Italy. And then he fought, with a few tribes in Italy, and then eventually, they became the descendants of, the Roman, the founders of the Roman Republic. All words to that effect.
Yeah, and you notice but then eventually became you got this mythology about the two sons, Romulus and Remus.
Yes.
And I think
reared by a she-wolf.
Yes, and then one killed the other, right? I think Romulus killed Remus, and therefore and then Rome. And so was he the first king or the first? He got founder's credit at that point.
Yes.
And then you can't help but note that particular story. And then the Cain and Abel story from the Bible, where one son kills the other, one brother kills another, and why? So you have these particular themes that sort of recur in all of this ancient mythology. And so the Bible is no different. And so what I'm saying is there was just a reservoir of mythology which you could draw from and then apply to your own particular religious entrepreneurship, right? And then hope to get followers and converts, and then thereby acquire political power.
Well, yeah, and basically all it is, the story has to be just sort of vaguely morally satisfying or outlandish enough for people to remember, and then they'll lap it up, right? I mean this is basically what what's his name, Yoram Hazoli. So he wrote *Sapiens*, and he was basically saying, well, we humans, we have the ability to conceive of the abstract of, narratives, possibly lies, and make it work for us, such as trust in the currency. We create a myth. We fictionalize something and say, oh, but this piece of paper is a $10 bill or whatever, and then you get people to believe in it.
Yeah. And I don't know if you ever looked at the Book of Mormon. Have you ever read the Book of Mormon?
No, I haven't. Have you?
I've glanced through it. I've perused it. And if you notice it, that so basically it's just it's just the Bible. He lifted the Bible and then grabbed some other mythology. And I noticed that there's one particular story from the Mahabharata where I think like the wife of Krishna is abducted and brought into this room, and they try to disrobe her, and they can't, because through this miracle, more and more of her sari, her dress keeps being materialized. So they pull on her clothes, but there's just infinite amount of it, and so they can't really do it. They can't really undress her. And this story is in the Book of Mormon. It was just wholesale lifted and plopped down. I don't know. And so the process just continues. It just continued over into the U.S., into the New World. Like
the merchandising of the holy underwear of Mormons. That's merchandising, right?
I've heard of this. Mitt Romney, the magic underwear. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, red is also a way of merchandising. It's like, oh, you're a Christian, you've gone on pilgrimage. Would you like, to have a look at Christ's blood, in some, container? There's still this thing in I think it's Belgium or was it Luxembourg, and this it's called Christ's blood, and it's in this vial, and you can sort of see it's dark, and it's in this glass cabinet, and then people go and queue up and kiss it through the glass cabinet. They do that. They still do that.
Yeah. I thought. Well, when I was growing up, there was we had what were called televangelists.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have them in the UK? Did you have them in the UK, or is that a purely American thing? Maybe
I think it's American.
Yeah, and these people would just shamelessly appeal for money. They would give a little lecture on the Bible, and then just have people send in their money, and they would do it, and they would become fabulously wealthy. And it just didn't strike anybody as being improper or gross or ostentatious or just terrible. It was accepted, and not in my household. We would mock them viciously, and it was just a weird form of Christianity. And so this is probably but these were all Protestant denominations. All of these sort of upstart religious cults are always Protestant. So in a way, I can sort of see E. Michael Jones's point that that's a type of behavior you'd want to discourage. This sort of Protestant entrepreneurship. Right.
Well, I mean, it began with the Catholics selling indulgences, and I guess it's like, well, these pilgrims are here, that they'll want some little souvenir. Let's give them a few pieces of wood from the cross that Christ died on. They probably don't believe in it, but they'll be prepared to pay for it, right? That is the thing. And the indulgences, I'm sure, a few rich people will think, will it really shorten my stay in purgatory? Well, but it's like, I just feel better if I buy it. And it's for a good cause.
Yeah, well, do you think Martin Luther was motivated by his hate of indulgences, or do you think there was a racial element that drove that split?
Well, I think the Reformation was inevitable, really, because it would only be a matter of time before monarchs of Europe thought the Pope is really another politician like us. So we don't see why we should agree with everything. He does boss us around, and I guess the last straw was when Henry wanted to sire a son, and he couldn't get a divorce.
Well, for the longest time, the Pope was elected. I guess in a way he's sort of elected now. There's this council that convenes every time the Pope pops his clogs. They have to convene this council in the Vatican and quote unquote discover a new Pope.
Oh, you mean the papal conclave?
Yeah. But it used to be nakedly. The office used to be nakedly political, like in the time of Medici.
Mm-hmm.
Weren't one of the Medicis made Pope?
Yeah. I mean, and there was a time when they had children, could take wives, and fought wars.
Yeah.
And of course, they would have to fight wars in order to maintain their power, right? And then we know that during the wars of Italian unification, that there were already, lots of Italians who hated the Pope, and there was this war of unification, and they basically conquered the Papal States, and because there was a time when most of Italy was ruled by the Papal States, with the exception of Lazio, I think. And then because they lost the war, the Vatican is now this tiny city-state because of the wall that I forget which Pope built around the. Have you been to Rome?
No, I haven't.
Uh-huh. Well, you must go to the Vatican Museum.
Yeah, I would like to see the architecture. I'd like to go to Rome eventually. Of all the European cities, I think Rome is probably the most interesting. If not Florence. Yes. Florence would probably be number 2.
Yes.
But my thing is, Italy's generally a happy place. It's generally people are pretty pleased with Italy when they go there as tourists.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's so many beautiful things to see.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's like the pagan holdovers? Or is it just?
I think architecture is just more beautiful on the mainland of Europe, right? And it's like Britain's just an offshore island, and you can see the inferiority of the workmanship and everything. But when you go to Rome, you think, wow, it really is several degrees above the stuff that you see in the UK, which is sort of more simple. I mean, the Scandinavians, it's I guess it's because they're poorer, right? So they have more. It's more.
Well, I guess Rome, in Italy, they have all that slave labor to capitalize on. I think that's so they could do those really ambitious projects. because they had a bunch of people do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, so I mean, so labor is, really so important. But then, if you have too many slaves, what happens is that you basically let your own proletariat, well, you let them go, because I mean, what happened after Rome acquired his empire and all the territories and all the slaves, and they came to, the rich people just preferred to deal with the slaves and ignore their own working class. And that was when bread and circuses came into being, because then the the working classes of Rome became redundant, but they still had to be, controlled and managed, and they were given bread and circuses, the bread dough, and their entertainment.
So do you think that's where we are now? We have
Yeah.
this American lumpen proletariat that's pacified with video games, so they don't want to work. And luckily, we have this infinite reservoir of Mexicans to do all the heavy lifting, and they do it.
Well, I mean, but the consequence of that is you become useless, and when you become useless, your status lowers, compared to the people who are useful.
Right. Oh, it's all so lamentable.
Well, yes, but so I'm saying there's no need to blame the Jews. But if you say that to the people who want to blame the Jews, they'll treat you as some kind of heretic. And this is what I find with people. It's like, but we believe that the Jews were responsible for our ills for, however many years. I mean, if people of mature years, so they probably spent, more than half their lives believing, or maybe their entire lives.
Yeah. Hey, so SJJ's moved on. He seems to be developing a financial empire now.
Well, he says he's still doing Deliveroo and delivering parcels for Amazon, but he's gonna, make it big and do Bitcoin, and is giving financial advice. Is he?
Yes, he's giving inspiring lectures on his YouTube letter to his other NEETs, trying to extract them from neatitude.
Well, it's probably a good idea for him to. Well, he's not going to make a fortune doing this, right? This is just for people who, feel compelled to go on and on about what they need to go on about.
Yeah,
But
I mean, but he's, it sounds like he's working hard and saving his money and investing it. And it seems like he's having good success.
yes,
I'm
good
not
for
been,
him. I mean,
I've been a very bad investor. I've been very unlucky with my investments.
yeah, I mean, some people seem to have made a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, the all sort of ads I keep saying, all you have to do, and I paid off my mortgage, and this AI thing that tells me when to buy and when to sell and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember that I used to give these similar lectures to OV and company back in the days when I was on those streams, and I was roundly chastised because they didn't want to work for Zog. So you following this EBT drama in the States?
The one about the Americans not getting their welfare checks and rioting.
Theoretically, come November 1st, the welfare checks aren't going to go out.
And then what do you think will happen?
Nothing good. Well, depends. It depends on how you define good, but it's going to be a very rude awakening for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that Trump was the accelerationist candidate? We all thought it was a Biden or Kamala, but it was Trump all along.
Yeah, and it's not clear what the Democrats are holding out on over. So theoretically, the Republicans have all three branches of government, right? And the only card the Democrats can play is to block the the appropriations process so that the government is shut down. This is the only card they can play. And I think it's been at least 3 weeks. And Trump doesn't appear to be budging. And then you ask the Democrats, well, what's the issue? What are you holding out over? And it's this vague thing about healthcare somehow. And I've heard it speculated upon. It's that conceding this, if the Democrats concede, they will basically betray their masters, their paymasters, which is the healthcare industry, which is an enormous industry in the States because it's so corrupt. And the Democrats, if they want to win election, they need those contributions from the healthcare industry. Otherwise, they lose elections. And so their graft is ultimately going to do in all of their welfare constituents.
Do you mind, Elliott, explaining it to British people who have no idea what you're talking about and haven't heard of EBT? Do you think EBT you could explain it?
Just think of it as the dole. It's what is it?
Employee Benefit Trust.
EBT. I don't even know what the acronym means anymore. It's defined. It's I think electronic benefit transfer something.
Right.
So it's like a credit card, and every month, the first of the month, you get a new load of money on that card that you can take to the grocery store and buy your groceries with.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So just think of it as a welfare check.
Right. Or the modern form of food stamps.
Yeah. Food. Exactly. It's the same stuff. So, and for a lot of people, because Democrats have cultivated this welfare class for so long, this has just been the way of life for a shocking number of people. I don't know what the percentage is exactly, but I think it's like 20 to 30% of the U.S. population. This is how they survive. So if you can imagine 20 to 30% of people suddenly not able to feed themselves, that's going to be the basis for a lot of political consternation and disquiet. So I don't know if the Democrats are going to blink, who's going to blink first, but if neither side blinks, there's going to be, wide-scale theft, because that's all they have left. They'll have no food. They'll have nothing to eat. And so
then they'll be acting, and the National Guard will be called to California and the blue states.
Well, Trump had been threatening to bring the National Guard to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of consternation here about what an atrocity that is and so forth. And I fully expect it to happen, but they made this sort of 11th hour deal and decided that they didn't need to do it. So, which kind of depressed me because I was really cheering for it. I was hoping it would happen. Not that we need it technically. I mean, yes, the drug addicts on the street are totally annoying and they should be incarcerated, but things have sort of calmed down since COVID at the street level.
Right.
But
I think Trump had his eye on California, didn't he? He actually dropped in on California and campaigned in California.
Yeah. So I think that was an effort just to get, there's some tech money he was probably trying to collect. Trump has no hope of winning California.
But if he did, it would be King Trump.
Oh,
it sounds like he's kind of picking a fight. It's like, just do something that would make me call the National Guard.
No. So the governor of California is Gavin Newsom, and he's widely believed to be the presidential candidate in the next election.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he was trying to keep California in the news to humiliate Gavin Newsom and highlight to the American people how poorly this state is run, and it is run poorly. So I think it was just political maneuvering to undermine Gavin Newsom.
Right.
So Gavin Newsom had to endure a recall election, which he survived it. But the fact that it even made it to the ballot was pretty interesting. So
what do you mean by this recall election?
So this is like, I think 2021, after the lockdowns. There are a lot of people very upset about the lockdowns, the COVID lockdowns. And to make matters worse, it's sort of like a let them eat cake moment. Gavin Newsom was photographed at probably the most expensive restaurant in California, eating at a dinner party, and nobody had masks on. Right?
Yes.
And this was this
but
was
what, you
sacrilege.
can't eat with your mask on.
Yeah, perhaps, but at the same time, everyone was locked at home because they needed to wear a mask, and he was called out, and so he became really. I mean, he was always a little bit. I mean, anybody to the right of your average leftist doesn't like Gavin Newsom, but there's so many welfare dependent people who love Gavin Newsom because they need to. He brings home the bacon for them. So and if you see him, he's tall, he's good looking. It's got a sort of aristocratic background for California. And so, he survived a sex scandal about 10 years ago. Democrats are basically untouchable in California. So, but they're also on the forefront of the most extreme leftist experiments, like giving needles to drug addicts and things like that, putting drug addicts up in hotel rooms.
Oh no!
Just rubbing it in your average working man's face. There was a sadistic element to his response to COVID. So anyway, he's broadly hated, but it doesn't really matter because he's got the numbers. So, but the thing about it is, you want your candidate to come from a swing state and not a stalwart blue state if you want to win an election. You've got to. You're probably familiar with what the swing states are.
Why? Actually, I don't know the reason why you might want that.
Well, because if you're from a swing state, a lot of people will just vote their local guy in. It doesn't matter what party. They just want to see the guy they know to be be president, right? Localism. So if you're in a state like Pennsylvania, which is large, has a lot of electoral votes, and can literally go every way. You remember all the coverage. Well, will Trump win Pennsylvania? Will Trump win Pennsylvania? Now, it's seen as the key to winning the whole election, given the way the other states break out, right? California's firmly blue. New York's firmly blue. Illinois is firmly blue. These are three big states, and they basically outweigh all the other big Western states, which are geographically very large, but have very small populations and very few electoral votes. So ultimately, every election every year always comes down to Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and Minnesota potentially. These four states are generally capable of going either way. Now, it used to be Ohio. Ohio may be in that group, and Florida used to be in that group, but Florida now seems to be a Republican stronghold.
Because of the Jews.
Actually, it's the Cubans.
Oh.
No, I mean, no. Florida would be Alabama, but for the Jews, right? Alabama's deep red. Florida used to be deep red, and then a lot of Jews from New York retire to Florida, and they would make it a lot more liberal than it used to be, and it was considered a swing state. And then, but Florida. So I think Florida went for In 2020, did Florida go for Biden or did it go for Trump? It was close. But in 2024, Trump just sealed it up again. It's now solidly red.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so all of this is coming down to all the off-season politics have to do with the governors of swing states.
Mm-hmm.
So why did we get on this track?
We started talking about Gavin Newsom.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we're talking about Gavin Newsom and the National Guard and the EBT, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's going to be riots. So all of the blue states, there's going to be intense rioting because there's just such a huge percentage of the population that is wholly dependent on food stamps. And if you go to New York, you'll see this. If you go to like New York City, once you're out of the prestigious neighborhoods, it's just block after block after block of tenement buildings filled with welfare-dependent people,
Mm-hmm.
eating shit food and swearing and making noise on the subway. I mean, New York only has a handful of select neighborhoods. Otherwise, it's like it's the third world.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have that play. You have that to look forward to, Claire. That's what I was saying. Is you'll have a good old-fashioned political chaos to save it from the sidelines.
Right. I mean, if I were Trump, I would just abolish elections. I would. It's
Surely
like,
become a key.
and then I'd say, oh, Washington, he told us not to, and we didn't listen. Oh, and look at all the other stuff that we didn't listen to. We're sorry. We're sorry. We're going to do better. We're going to, follow that part of Washington's advice. And there you go.
Well,
what's so hard about that?
He doesn't have the power to do that.
He just has to talk about it, and then everybody will say, oh, he wants us to become a one-party state like China. And then I guess Trump can say, but China's quite well run.
Well, think about this. Think about this, quote-unquote, no kings protest that happened last week. Trump has done nothing monarchical. You know, he's simply implementing the agenda that he campaigned on, right? And all of these people who are obsessed with democracy simply they can't accept the results of the election. They can't accept the fact that the democratic process produced a result that they're not happy with.
It's the boomers. They hate Trump.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And I think it's because he is negating the best years of their life. They thought they were liberal, and Trump is saying liberalism was wrong.
Yes.
And that's why they can't stand it.
Yes. So, but what I'm saying, they're accusing him of doing dictatorial things when he's really not. You know, he's exercising executive power that's, you know, that the Constitution allows him to execute on. So, but you're talking about is really going over the line and you know, acting outside of the Constitution by
it could just be a proposal, and then he can say, you know, because of this and because of that, and it's been bad for the American people. I'm sure we can come up with, you know, something like that. It's like, well, you've had such bad government. Some of you didn't vote for, 20 years until I rolled up, because you didn't think there was any point voting for Bush or Clinton because they were, you know, they had nothing to offer, you know, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm sure a narrative could be woven, but, you know, maybe he doesn't want to take that risk. But I mean, in order to secure his legacy, he has to do something like that, because Well, I guess he's trying to change, the mood and everything. Oh, what about this demolishing the White House thing? I thought that was quite
This
funny.
is just an
The
example.
East Wing.
So yeah, the East Wing. When you think about it, it's like half of the White House, right?
Yeah.
That's the image that comes to mind. But if you actually look at it, look at the map, like a top view. If you were looking down on the situation,
Mm-hmm.
the East Wing is this outbuilding over on the farthest edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really used that much because it was poorly designed or something. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like they're knocking down the White House proper or any part of the White House proper. They're knocking about this little outbuilding, and he's going to try and make it something like a ballroom, apparently. And
That's
it's just,
nice.
yeah, it's fine. If you think if it was any other president, nobody would bat an eye. But because it's
Mm-hmm.
Trump, and the problem is, Luke was talking about this morning. The problem is that it'll probably have Trump's name on it, and that's
The Trump ballroom.
yeah. And so it's a way of sort of immortalizing Trump, because I think your average boomer is just trying to think this whole Trump phenomenon was a temporary thing, and then after
Mm-hmm.
he's gone, everything will go back to the way things were. But the fact that he ripped down a building and built a better building and put his name on it, just sort of, it makes him immortal. It turns him into a god or a king, actually. And that's what they just find so triggering, apparently.
Oh my God! I've just read the Guardian,
Yeah.
and it begins. Donald Trump has quite the passion for American history. If there's a controversial statue commemorating a dead white supremacist out there, there's a good chance the president has gone to bat for it. That's how it begins on the story.
Yeah.
On the story about the East Wing.
Here, I'm going to see
It's
if I can
just
find this.
so ridiculously over the top and biased. And it's
Well,
written by somebody called Arwa Madawi.
Indian name. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I've been making a point of listening to normie radio lately. And so just to get a flavor of it,
Mm-hmm. PBS. What was it?
NPR. So NPR.
NPR.
So there's various flavors of NPR. There's NPR, and then there's listener-supported radio, which isn't technically NPR, but it functions a lot like it. But it's even more liberal, right? It's privately funded, but it's just out-and-out radicalism, left-wing radicalism. And so I've been listening to that, and it's like listening to people on antipsychotic medication. Like they're not healthy people, and they don't even bother trying to round out their rhetoric to make it sound any reasonable. It's just out and out hyperbole, fascist Trump doing X and Y and Z and marching through, and just really silliness. And it's just amazing to see, liberals used to have the high ground, intellectual high ground, where they're the ones capable of thinking about things in a balanced way. And not anymore. It's just really low IQ. Just like the introduction that you read, right? Everything is just anti-Trump, one way or another, either directly or indirectly. And it's like they just have to keep beating that drum over and over again. Otherwise, they're not doing their job. And what they realize, and so I don't know if you noticed this, but for years, the government paid for a lot of this NPR, right? But Trump finally, after years of people on the right screaming for this, he finally defunded it and said there's no more government money going to NPR. And this is a big hit to them. And they just thought it was just sort of like the EBT situation where they just thought they had this subsidy forever. And suddenly Trump comes along and pulls the rug out from under them. And so there's just going to be a lot of rug pulling, and it's going to take its toll on them. And so he is making he's doing the institutional damage that he needs to do to these leftists. And I'm thrilled by it. I think I'm more than satisfied.
Good.
So things are looking good, but we got to get through this EBT crisis, because I mean, it could be like literally riots in the streets and breaking of windows and things. It could really get ugly. So I'm on pins and needles, Claire.
Yes.
I mean,
so much to comment on.
If my car window gets broken into, it's going to cost me like $600.
Huh.
You know, if they smash my windshield, it's an expensive repair. You know, and anarchy's not cheap. You should invest in windows. I'll talk to Stephen.
Well, you don't have off-street parking, underground car park.
No, I park on the street. That's quite a luxury there. It may be worth it. It's available to me. It's like $150 a month, but it's just a pain in the ass because you got to unlock the garage, pull it up, drive through, come out, close the garage, lock the garage. You know, just versus just turning to swinging over and parking on the street. It's just a lot easier.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you know that that first paragraph I read out to you. It's half. She actually announces that she's a half Palestinian lesbian.
And the Guardian article.
I mean, she actually looks quite attractive. I mean, she doesn't look like a lesbian, but
yeah.
But and then I think people have gone mad, but nobody's really noticed.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Thinking about when we were growing up, you didn't lead with that.
No.
It was way to be ostracized, marginalized, and now it's a way to gain.
I'm part of the mainstream now. That's why I announce my sexual orientation, which is not. Yeah.
Well, this is in the process of being unwound, and I think a lot of normal people are just tired of it all. You know, I think we're gonna be in the driver's seat for a while. I think the pendulum is coming our way for a change. Anyway.
Yeah, it would be nice to return to sanity, or just to have a government that doesn't seem to be mad, and and kind of making you the laughing stock of the world. It's like, has your government gone mad? Why are they behaving like that? And these really annoying questions that you get from people who
Yeah, I haven't even thought about how we're perceived abroad. Part of this question. So, yeah, I'm sure it's not like this in Russia, nor China.
I mean, I get it from my parents. I got it from them for a while.
They in Malaysia?
Yeah, and they'd say, "Why have they gone mad? Have they gone mad?"
This is what the nuclear umbrella gets you. When most people don't have to fight in the military, you just live in this cocoon. And this was predicted way back when. Forgot by whom, but someone said that nuclear weapons and being nuclear armed would change culture tremendously. And I think they were right.
Yeah, I guess you can become a victim of your own success, as we were agreeing earlier that Rome had become a victim of its own success. So I guess if you think you're the global hegemon, you don't think anybody's going to invade you.
Right.
But then you kind of disable your ability to fight your internal enemies, because the enemy is always within.
Yeah, your culture collapses from atrophy because there's no vigor in the culture anymore, and there's no requirement to engage with reality. You can just what do they say in Rome? In like the final days of Rome, people would pretend to be helpless and ask to be fed. You know,
Hmm.
they would get their welfare, they would get their bread, and have other people feed it to them because it was sort of a like acting helpless was a way to achieve status. You hear
Kind
about,
of like us, right?
yeah,
I mean, I think, it is to do with the gender roles, because, it's obviously a useful strategy for women to cry and, have some kind of sob story. And, usually these stories would be more sympathetically treated if the woman is attractive. But when a man does that, it doesn't quite work in the same way. In fact, it is, you know,
yeah,
you're kind of advertising the weakness of your country if you allow men to, you know, use um, use their pathetic state to gain status.
yes, but in the way I understood this behavior, even men were engaging in this type of behavior um, in the last days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess when men start doing that, um,
It's over.
you're announcing it to all your enemies that
Right.
you're
Free for the taking.
ready to be invaded.
Yes, exactly. Hey, listen, Claire, my throat's a little itchy.
Well,
I think
thank
I'm
you
coming.
for coming. It's been great fun.
Yes, indeed, it has. I all right. I'll pull it together. I'll get my thoughts together, and we'll have I'll have something better to say next time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can give us your lecture on Richard Carrier.
All right. Yeah, I'll have to organize it. All right. Good,
Yes.
good plan.
All
I
right.
have to. All right,
Okay.
I'll talk
Take
to you.
care.
All right,
Get
take care.
well soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.